Well, one of the big highlights of the new parliament is the historic sacred Sengol or the Sceptre, which has been placed now next to the Speaker's chair in Lok Sabha. And it was Sachchidanand Joshi, the Member Secretary and Executive and Academic Head of the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts, who had located the Sengol and also talked about its historical significance. He says that the Sengol has now found its relevant place in the parliament and that it's a symbol and a hallmark of democracy. Here's a chat with him by my colleague Vasudha Venugopal.
So today is an important day for the country. The new parliament is in place and the historic sceptre or the Sengol has found a place in the new parliament. To talk about the Sengol and the new parliament, we have with us Dr. Sachchidanand Joshi. He's member secretary of the IGNCA. IGNCA has been instrumental in pivoting the research that went into the Sengol, and Dr. Joshi has also played a very important role in ensuring that the new parliament has images from Indian philosophy, Indian traditions and represents Indian ethos. Thank you very much for speaking to us, sir. I will start with that one question that's been on a lot of minds. What does a Sengol symbolize for a democracy like India? Because Sceptre has always been associated with kings. So does this have a place in India's democracy, or does it just have symbolic value?
No, it definitely has place in India's democracy. It denotes rule of law and righteousness. If you see the Nandi is the symbol of truth, justice, good governance and service to the people. So that everything attributes to democracy. So when you call it sceptre, we are going to object, because sceptre is definitely related to monarchy because it deals with power, whereas Sengol deals with authority to rule, authority to govern. But authority, whose authority? Authority given by public, by and large. And who is going to sort of perform that authority? So there are adhinams who on behalf of public, they give this authority to someone to rule, but rule of law, righteousness, service to the people. So that is of course the hallmark of democracy is. And that is why we think that the parliament is the right place for the Sengol, because it reminds everyone that for whom you are working for the people of India, to whom you are responsible to. You are responsible to the people of India. So you always should have that thing in back of your mind. So if that thing is at your back of the mind, definitely you will whatever you will decide with more logic and more justifications.
Sir, another interesting aspect of your work on the interiors of the parliament is the fact that you've managed to get I think the instruments of different gifted artists like Ustad Bismillah Khan, Pandit Ravi Shankar. How did you manage to do that, and where would these instruments be kept?
Actually, what happened, it was a process of creating the music gallery, and in that music gallery we wanted to show some instruments, but later on we were communicated that it is the desire of the Honorable Prime Minister that we should have something which is unique. I mean, sitar is just sitar, but what makes it special if it belongs to Pandit Ravi Shankar? So when this was communicated to us, it was a big challenge. So God has been kind enough. We approached to family members or to the maestros themselves, and they have been very kind, very kind. Let me place it on record that they have been very kind to sort of lend their own instruments. Like for instance, the son of Ustad Bismillah Khan was not in Varanasi when we contacted him. He was somewhere else, but he drove down to Varanasi 50-60 kilometers to hand it over to our people in Varanasi. And he thanked the Honorable Prime Minister for thinking about this gallery. Ustad Amzad Ali Khan, I mean, he called me and said, I would give him, please come and take it. Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji, my colleague went to Mumbai, he was ready, he said, come on, take it today, tomorrow I am going somewhere else. Family of Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, or daughter of Pandit Ravi Shankar. She is in US, but she managed to give the permission and all the MOUs done, and we could take the sitar from Pandit Ravi Shankar. And Ramani's flute from South, Koraikudi Mani, who recently is no more, unfortunately. His family members, you see, I mean, we contacted him, they were so generous, you see, I mean, they were in a moment of sorrow and grief. Despite of all that, they said, no, we'll give it to you. So the legends, I mean, it's all God's grace that everything, Pandit Suresh Talwalkar's tabla is there. He asked his disciple in Delhi to hand it over, so he personally came and gave it to us. So many things. They are all heart-touching stories.
Dr. Joshi, I was looking at some of the icons and they're beautiful. You know, you have the mandaps there and you have the foyers and you have the dwarpals. But tell us, how consultative was this process? I'm given to understand that you spoke to states about it. You got a lot of views and feedback. Tell us, who were the people that you consulted?
You see, it's a team, and it's not a small team. It's a big team. So many members. If I name a few, it'll be injustice to those whom I would be missing. But of course, I would like to place it on record that the Ministry of Culture has been kind enough to have trust on IGNC's ability, and then they gave this entire task to us, and they believed on what we are doing. Not only that, the Secretary Culture, Sri Govind Mohan himself, I mean, he used to sit here for hours together to discuss and to deliberate and to guide us. I mean, this is a team effort. I'm only naming him because, I mean, this is the kind of leadership which you want from someone like the Secretary of Culture. And all the experts, eminent experts, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushans, we have contacted them, and they willfully came and devoted so much of time. You will not believe how many hours we have been discussing and researching. And everyone sort of thought that this project belongs to him or her. So that kind of a familiarity, that kind of affection with the project was there. And then we tried to sort of consolidate our research. Then we also thought that how can we make it holistic? How can we make it representative? How can we make it inclusive? So then we started selecting the artifacts and artists. And let me tell you that most of the artists who have created their artworks are not very famous big names. They all are grassroots level artists, and they have creativity of highest level, but they are not much known artists. But we reposed faith on them, and I am happy to share that they delivered. Not only delivered, they delivered on time. They delivered with utmost perfections, and they were ready to listen to whatever changes we were sort of telling them. So that is the beauty of the whole concept.
So Dr. Joshi, from the contribution of women to the country in ancient India to ancient Indian sports, I think you have covered a lot of aspects from India's past. Tell us some of the most interesting and your favorite items that are being reflected in the Parliament today.
There is one image of Gargi. Since you are talking about women, Gargi, 4,000, 5,000 years back, and she is a housewife. But in Janak's Sabha, she argues with Yagyavak, who is supposed to be the greatest scholar of that time, and virtually defeats him. This thing tells you two important things. All talks related to women empowerment are not new for us. Women were empowered at that time, and all talks related to a liberalized society where a lady was allowed to argue in front of everyone, and she virtually won. So that scene we have depicted in one of the mandaps as a huge brass mural. I think many of us may not be knowing the story of Gargi, especially the younger generation. But if they go and see that, it will be an eye-opener for them, and they will have a different perspective of the entire narrative related to Bharat.
So, Dr. Joshi, last question. Is it right to say that the Sengol was neglected for years?
It was neglected, it was put aside. Maybe its importance was not properly understood. I would say its importance was not properly understood. That is why this incident happened and it was not properly recorded. It should have been there somewhere on the records. But then why it was neglected, I don't know. It was so visionary of our Prime Minister to think about that and to place it in the Parliament just to show that this belongs to the identity of India, the lineage, the historicity of India, the traditions which we belong to. So it is really a unique concept, I must tell you. I mean, if you go into the historicity, try to find out documents, reasons, logics, there may be arguments and counter-arguments. But there is no denial of the fact that Sengol belongs to Indian tradition from years together, 1,000 years, Cholas, and it has continued. So there is no harm in sort of keeping that as a symbol of righteousness and rule of law.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. So that was Dr. Joshi, Member Secretary, IGNCA, who was telling us that the Sengol and not the scepter defines the rule of law and rule of justice, and it has finally found a rightful place in Indian democracy. With camera person Xavier, this is Vasudha Venugopal for NDTV.